This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 39. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, who's a little bit scruffy right now, and my partner in crime from a remote secret location.
Wisconsin is cold. Freaking cold. Even for penguins, it's cold. Holy crap.
Oh, man. Even for turbo penguins, you think with the extra heat from the turbo that would make up for it.
Oh my gosh. No.
I guess not.
Oh. It is flipping cold. Anyways.
Yeah.
So
today we had some interesting reviews drop on the RTX 5090 from a couple of our favorite reviewers, and we got some things to say about it. So Turbo, why don't you go ahead and open us up?
Okay, so I know we're gonna hack off some people because the title is 5090 equals 4090 Ti.
Very much clickbait.
Let me explain. Let me explain that real quick, just as we get started. It's not that I'm saying it's bad, okay, but
yeah.
I mean, depending on your use game outside of DLSS 4, if we're talking just pure horsepower, it really is somewhere in the realm, depending on your game, a 20 to 35% bump. Some games do better, some games do worse. DLSS 4 is something for sure is unique. We will definitely get into that topic in a little bit, but in general, horsepower to horsepower, it's in that realm of 20 to 35%.
Which is what we expected based on the slide.
Yeah, which is kind of what we were thinking, what it meant. And so push comes to shove, it's kind of linear. You're going to pay 30% more, and roughly you're going to get 30% more. Yeah. And so I know it's new. I know it's new architecture. I know it has DLSS 4, and so it's got more VRAM. But in all honesty, it feels like, from a performance perspective, it's kind of like, it doesn't feel like, I don't think we should really kind of expect a whole lot more. It is a whole nother generation. It is a 30% bump, 20 to 30% bump. So, I mean, it's not bad. I just think that, when Nvidia comes out and says it's double, you kind of have to be like, right. Yeah,
really.
It's like the marketing that you get from any company these days. You'd be like, sure. What's reality? Right. And so I think reality is that, when you start off to say it's double the performance of a 4090, okay, it's not double the performance of a 4090.
No. Yeah.
So
a 5070 does not equal a 4090.
And I think if you have, like, for instance, if you have a 4090 right now, and you're kind of in the realm of, got money, and if you can sell your card for $1,500-$1,600, then 30% for $500 more isn't such a bad deal. And I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
I think the problem that we're going to have with that argument is going to be supply, because the rumors we're hearing is like, yay, we have cards. There's not going to be a whole lot of these cards available at launch. And it seems like they're not going to, what's the word I want to use? You're not going to get volume until probably the summer. And I don't know how soon that will be. But yeah, I think volume is going to be an issue. I think we're going to go back to, unfortunately, I think we're going to have scalpers. There's such a huge demand for it. There's such a huge demand for it.
Well, and then we have the partner cards too, because we're just talking about FEs, and with Founders Editions cards, supply issues are just part of the game. But the partner cards are not going to be cheap. Gone are the days of the $100 premium for a partner card. I would not be one bit surprised if we start seeing like an Asus or an MSI 5090 going for $2,500 for the low end of their stack.
I don't know. I still think you'll probably have. I think Nvidia is still trying to push them to have a reference-based card that's closer to that MSRP that they have there. I think the other question that I would say is, you know, Nvidia made a big point with these founders cards to have so that you could have MSRP priced cards.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if Nvidia is super excited, or I don't know. I mean, I wonder if and how long Nvidia will continue making cards. And the other question is volume. You're going to make cards whether you sell them directly or whether you give them to partners.
Hmm.
And, there comes a point where you have to have warranties and RMAs and testing and all the stuff that goes with making your own cards, customer support, customer service. I just I wonder if Nvidia is going to do that long term. Now, we
Well,
talked about
they might.
volume. They
Yeah.
might.
Yeah.
They
Well,
might.
and one of the reasons I think they might is the 5080 and 5090 are a lot closer to the cards that they put into servers, the Blackwell cards they put in there, because it's the modular design. It slots into a daughter board instead of actually
Hmm.
being a card itself. Um, it really is designed to be modular, which for the 5080 and 5090, I'm wondering what clever tricks we're going to start seeing out of the people making water blocks, because I mean that opens up a
That
whole different thing.
Yeah, I think, looking at some of the teardowns of the 5090, I wonder if they're going to support the FE because it is radically different.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not one PCB, it's like three. You've got one
Yeah.
for your power, you got one for the main, and then you have one for your inputs. I could see that being tricky. It's not impossible.
No,
It's
and
not impossible.
clearly
It
they've got
could,
it figured out. The
you
card
could,
works.
if you could, in theory, if you tighten that thing up, you could make a very small water cooled 5090, like
Hmm.
smaller than a S. I mean, the really tiny card.
Yep.
Um, And I could see like ITX builders really liking that because
Hmm.
you could make that. I mean, it's a physically tiny card.
Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see what the market does with that, and it'll be interesting to see if any partner cards. So right now
Yeah.
we've seen photos. We kind of get an idea of what partner cards are looking like. Um,
Most
it
of
will
them are
be
doing
interesting.
triple fan, triple slot.
Yeah, triple fan, triple slot, large coolers. No, it seems like nobody's doing the double pass through. It looks like you've got the single pass through with two additional fans.
Hmm.
Um, it will be interesting to see if there's some movement because the card is not very big. If you're going to see someone try to do something unique, like a single slot or a really tiny, water block type card.
Yeah.
Um, this is a card that could very easily fit into a small form factor, but you've got to keep in mind you're still going to pull a lot of power.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
now
even like Nvidia had in their prototype that Steve on Gamers Nexus disassembled a couple episodes ago, where the card is actually perpendicular to the board,
I don't
and or perpendicular to the slot rather.
I don't think you'll have there's probably
Yeah.
lots of reasons why that didn't jump off. So
I thought it was a
it
great design. I mean, like it
I,
looked awesome, but
I
it
think it
probably just
has
didn't
challenge.
work.
I
Yeah.
think it has lots of challenges. At the end of the day, that's a
Yeah.
unique design. It doesn't surprise me that Nvidia kind of went outside the box. It also doesn't surprise me that when they do testing, they're like, yeah, there's pros, but there's definitely cons.
Yeah.
You know, building this thing and servicing that thing is going to be a nightmare. And even if you could anyways, that's not a.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's a very unique design that I don't expect to see anywhere else
yeah, same
ever
here. I
again.
mean, somebody might do something like that, but you never know. But one thing we did see out of the reviews is the card did a good job of staying cool, which for a cooler like that on a 4090, no way you could do that, and you're pulling almost 600 watts through that. So
I think
they had their pencils pretty sharp.
it will be interesting to see how the FE cards thermally from a power perspective and
Yeah,
how they come and work from a heat perspective
yeah,
and a noise perspective. Because in all honesty, the pass through fan design should be quieter, should be cooler,
mhm,
um, from a lot of different respects. And somebody like Nvidia isn't just doing this for kicks and giggles. Like
yeah,
there's reasons from a thermal and from a noise perspective, they've done all of the things they've done on their design. Um, the other half of it to keep in mind is that we don't really see board partners mimicking or doing the same things.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now my guess is it's a cost thing, okay? Because at the end of the day, they're trying to make more money, um, and that's probably more of anything.
hmm,
I don't. It'll be as I said. I think this is an interesting piece. It will be interesting to see if any board partners try unique and different things.
yeah,
Right now, doesn't look like we're seeing anything unique or different. It's just that they're all giant cards with huge freaking heat sinks and big giant fans and hawk fans and
yeah.
military grade fans and diamond
Yeah,
crusted fans and
and
all the other.
triple
Yeah.
rads and all that craziness. Asus
So
does have an interesting one that has a push pull design on the rear fan with two auxiliary fan inputs too.
I
But
mean,
you know,
push pull. I mean, it, it, it doesn't seem like we're needing that much heat pulling off of these cards. The FE, well, it's a good design, doesn't seem like anyone's harping that it's like a 5900 Ultra where it's like,
right?
hair
or
blower.
or the 480.
I mean, I just don't
Yeah,
see heat being a real topic of conversation with the FE, so I don't expect it to be an issue there.
yeah.
I think these are just more or less marketing gimmicks to say we have four fans. They only have
I,
three fans.
maybe.
I think I think there's probably some truth to that. Because I would bet that a four fan layout with a push pull on a graphics card that's fairly open is probably not making a large performance change.
Yeah.
But the other big thing, the one thing, and this is the hard piece to really kind of see, because we don't have them. We have to go by of what other people said is performance of DLSS 4.
Hmm.
And I think DLSS 4 is really unique in that I don't necessarily know if the 5090 is going to be where it's really super used.
Yeah.
Um,
Not for a couple
I
years at least.
agreed. I think DLSS 4 is unique in that for games that are very challenging would allow you to get a better frame rate. But even then, a lot of the reviewers are like, yeah, it's a bigger number. And if you're chasing a bigger number, the LSS 4 chases a bigger number.
Hmm.
Okay. It's not perfect. It's just upscaling. Okay. It's a scalar,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Um,
it's
AI scalar. So, but at the end of the day, you're still doing 30 frames. It's still going to be
yeah.
responsive like 30 frames. Um, and what I would say is you listen to some reviews, and some people think it's smoother, and others think that it's the same performance.
Yeah.
And so my question, at that point, I'm like, am I just getting a higher number to put a higher number? So I'm like, yeah, I'm getting 220 FPS.
I see. I don't think so, and this is kind of where I'm based on what Jay's 2 cents and a couple other people are saying, is yeah, you might be getting 240 frames per second. You might be drawing a frame at every refresh of your display, but the input and the behavior of the game is still going to be running at 60, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if, you're playing like a single player title. If you're playing something competitive like CS:GO or CS, whatever the new Counter-Strike is that's out, um, then you're not going to want to run DLSS. But um, if you're playing Cyberpunk, for example, and you want to turn on path tracing and turn on all of the new features that they patched in that Cyberpunk supports, so you can play the modern version of Crisis, it does seem to improve the experience significantly enough that even though you might only be getting 30 to 40 frames per second on your input response, visually you're still getting that 100 to 200 plus frame rate. And so if you're sensitive to how the game feels, it might not be the greatest experience. But, if you're the average gamer and you want that buttery smooth frame rate with all of the goodies turned on, and you're not too worried about maybe a little more input lag than you'd get by turning the quality down a couple notches and turning off all of the, oh my gosh, I want my GPU to catch fire in the next 10 minutes because it's pulling 600 watts from a connector that's rated for 600 watts. Um, you know, it all comes down to the kind of experience that you want.
Uh, the positive thing that I have to say about DLSS 4, and this was confirmed with multiple um, reviews, is that DLSS 4 was not adding any latency
Yep.
into your frame times.
Yep.
So if you were getting, 15 before, you were roughly getting 15 after.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that's the really positive thing, because I was concerned of adding in latency.
Yeah.
Um,
Which we did have with 3 and before.
Part of me thinks that DLSS 4 is going to be a bigger topic of conversation down the stack
Mhm.
at a 70 and a 60. Um, and in some respects, possibly even into an 80 series, because part of the benefit of DLSS 4 was 30% less RAM.
Mhm.
And at 16 gig, I think you're okay right now, but you could be an issue in, as time goes on. Now, the 5070 at 12 gig, that's where I think that could see some benefit. Um, and I just question on that card. I know it's going to play games really well. How well it will play demanding games, that's a good question. The other half of it is if you're already starting at low frames, like if you're playing the game, if you're running the game native and you're getting 10, 15 frames, well, DLSS will make it more playable
Mhm.
responsively. It's still going to be playing behind the scenes at that lower frame rate.
Yeah.
And so, for a single player game, yeah. But I don't know. I think DLSS 4 is going to be something that you can sit there and say, well, I have this. But I think by the time, the 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 series, down the road, DLSS 4, well, it will be beneficial for people who want longevity of
Mhm.
their cards and want to keep that 90 series for 6, 7, 8 years, which is great. You should.
Yeah.
Um, I think that will help those people get more out of it. But I think that we're probably seeing a real change in how graphics are done. And I think that we're going to see a lot of changes in the next couple of generations as we improve upon this. I could very easily see DLSS evolving like a 3.6. Do we think could, oh man, the best gift that Nvidia could do would be to give DLSS 4 support down to like the 3000 series,
Yeah.
because that's a series that really kind of struggles with VRAM, um, specifically VRAM. Um, that's kind of the Achilles heel of almost all of those cards. Um, Minus the 90 series, minus the
Hmm.
3080 Ti. But a lot of those other cards are really kind of, capped on their VRAM. And if you could get 30% more, that would allow you to really get some decent uplift in performance and longevity in those cards. I just don't know how well those cards, I mean, they're not bad right now,
No.
but as we get more and more VRAM usage, it's going to be a pump more. It's going to be harder for those cards to keep up, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the Nvidia way of doing it. We're going to give you a really, really cool card, but we're going to sort of, chop your knees off on the VRAM side.
Well,
And I disagree with that, but that's what they've just been doing.
yeah. I mean, that's what they've been doing since time immemorial. And that I think is kind of where AMD has the opportunity to come in with the value play and say, hey, look, you could play 4K without needing DLSS on our cards because we've got the VRAM. But,
Now,
they're not going
speak
to.
speaking of AMD, really quick, because I know the 5000 series is kind of the hot topic.
Hmm.
This is going to be really interesting
Yeah.
because places like Micro Center are going to have limited stock. They're going to sell out instantly of the 5000 series. My prediction is 5080, 5090 are going to sell out like instantly. I think 5070 Ti will sell out equally as quick. I think 5070 will still sell out. I don't think it's gonna, but like first cards gone are the 90 series,
Yep.
then the 80 series. I think it's gonna go down the stack because I think because people are gonna look the night like you have people who are like, yes, I want a 90 card. Yes, I want an 80 card because they're in that price point.
Right.
But when you get to the 70 card and the 70 Ti, I think most people are in the belt. If I'm going to spend 450, I might as well pay the little bit more
Hmm.
and get the more VRAM and the stronger graphics card, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's going to be a much quicker card. Um, but down the stack, they're just gonna all be gone. I don't think that there's enough volume. Yet you're gonna have AMD who's like, yay, 9000 series, and they're sitting in the back and nobody can sell them.
Right.
And it's gonna piss off people like retailers because that's just eating up space.
Yep.
Um, and it's gonna eat up space for months because they're not gonna release the cards until March.
Right.
So it will be interesting. I think that AMD is hoping that that they can't just have volume. That's the saving grace for AMD right now with 9000 series
Yeah.
is that it's going to be they're not going to have volume up front. Um and they're just going to be crazy expensive because they're going to be scalped.
Yeah.
Um I think the saving grace for AMD could possibly be if they have volume at launch. They've got 3 months to build that volume up. Sounds like they're trying to make sure they have. I don't know. It was the VP of Radeon Gaming, um, who who came out and said that they were taking this time to make sure they could eke out every last bit of performance out of the cards. I don't think we're gonna
Right.
see like a performance. Like I don't think our base clocks are gonna change.
Yeah.
I think it has everything to do with drivers. It has
I
to be
bet it
driver
does.
based.
I bet you're right. And I have a sneaking suspicion you might be right on them coming out with more additional refinements to FSR4 to leverage the improved AI performance on the 9070 over the 7900 XTX.
This also could allow them to price where they want to price because if Nvidia doesn't have volume and these pieces aren't readily available
Yep.
at the MSRP pricing, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. You can want to 5070 all day long, but they don't have any. So, you can buy it on, from scalpers and pay the scalpers tax because they got lucky. or
Mm-hmm.
you could buy one of ours. I hope that's not the play. I really wish that AMD would just have done this right. I just feel like I mean AMD. I just feel like AMD and Radeon are just kind of keep on making the same marketing. I just wish that they would understand where they are in the marketplace for gamers
Mm-hmm.
and for AI, because I think that they still feel like they deserve a premium price. And I think gamers look at them honestly and be like, okay, but you don't have the features. And I almost feel like with the AMD features, like they just need to like blow everything up and come out and like clear and concise. This is what this is, and kind of resituate everything. Because I
Yeah.
feel like with Nvidia, like if you say DLSS, you have a really quick understanding of what that is,
Yep.
and you have all these different things and settings in the Radeon graphics, and it's just not well laid out. Um, I don't get the same feeling, and I am an AMD user. I do not
Mm-hmm.
have an Nvidia card in my main machine. I don't have it on my laptop. I have it on my gaming laptop, but it's like I just I feel like that's where one of the issues that AMD kind of has the uphill battle. I think software is a problem, and I think in general, I think gamers look at DLSS and say it's better than FSR.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and it genuinely is. And that's kind of the other thing is it's not just AMD's side of the equation, it's the game side of the equation too, cuz most
Mm-hmm.
games don't support all of AMD's features because they're while they do sell a lot of cards, they don't have enough of the market. And so they just
I
support the
think,
DirectX stuff on AMD.
I mean, we talked about this before. I felt like AMD had, like, when I first got my AMD card, I was like, okay, cool. You've got PlayStation and Xbox. They're using that hardware, and I thought we would have tech kind of stream downwards. And I feel like what's happened is that Sony made things for the PlayStation that utilized AMD's hardware,
Mhm.
but they didn't use AMD software.
Right.
And so we didn't see the trickle down, because developers now just can't just cross use it. Like if you've ported a Sony, if you made a Sony game, you couldn't just port it. Like you
Yeah.
have to now make it to run on the PC. And it's like, well, if you had variable like an upscaler, like the what's the PlayStation one called? The
Oh,
anyways, the PlayStation
PlayStation
version,
Super Resolution, I think it is.
yeah, super.
PSR.
Yeah, PSR, that's what it is. If that it would make sense for AMD to go and be like, we'd love to use PSR
Yeah.
in PCs and implement it, in a way that could easily just be ported from a software
But
side.
but Sony, that would require a PSN login to use. But
Yeah, touche.
yeah. Well, I think on that bombshell, we'll call it a show for this evening. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time. And remember to like and subscribe and do all the algorithmic things down in the doobly-doo below. And until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.